Today I will teach you how to make a lemon blueberry coulis cake. It's absolutely gorgeous and delicious and amazing. So let's start. We use a spring form. The one I have here is a 6-inch. You can use a 7-inch. And if you want to use a 9-inch, you just double the recipe. So you simply use parchment paper like this. And then on top, I do this because you'll see later it's easier to remove the cake from the spring form. Lock it in place, make sure it's flat here, we're good to go. So that's the first step. The second step is we will put our scale here and then our food processor. The food processor has an S blade. Put that in here. And now we put the scale to 0. And now we do the crust. Simple as that. So 60 grams of pecans. You can use walnuts if you like. 60 grams. We add 30 grams of currants or raisins. And then we add 10 grams of date, which usually would be about 1 date. There we go. Yeah, it's a little over, but it's perfect. And then half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Let's bring the food processor over so you can see. It doesn't take that long. As long as when you take the mixture in your hand, you can squeeze it and it will stick together. In this case here, it needs a little bit more. Careful when you put your hand in there with the knife. Ah, perfect. You see how it's all stuck together? That's perfect now. Take it off. Move the food processor over. And now we will bring the mold back. So what's happening here simply is that, take things out of the way a little bit. There we go. We simply pour the mixture directly into the spring form. There we go. And then I use a rice paddle to start. And why is that? Because if you use your hands, the heat of your fingers, your hands, the mixture will stick to it. Whereas the paddle, it doesn't. So and it's round, so it's nice because it goes around the rim here. And then now you finish it up. You press harder. Now that it's been spread and put in place, you press harder. There we go. And it's ready. Your crust is ready. Excellent. Next step. You just clean the crumbs here a little bit. There we go. And the next step, we bring our scale back. And this time, we use a blender jar. If you don't have a small blender jar like this one, you have a regular size, then make sure that the mixture will cover your blades. So if it doesn't cover, then double the recipe. You'll have a cake that is waiting for you in your freezer when you need it, when you want to eat it. Okay, so let's just put aside things that we don't need anymore. Now this time I will need there we go. I need the water. 24 grams, 0 my scale, 24 grams of water, and then 12 grams of shredded coconut, so 36, and then we need 50 grams of lemon juice, cold press. Press it yourself. It's going to be way more delicious. So that brings us to 86. My bottle is quite full, so it's making a mess. It's easier when it's not that full. Let's wipe the mess. And the next ingredient is the date syrup. Date syrup is simply the same weight of dates and water, and you blend. That's as simple as that. So we need 44 grams. So that brings us to 130 grams. There we go. And then the next ingredient is dates, another 44 grams. So now we are at 174. My dates are pitted ahead of time, but still check that you don't have pits that maybe, didn't make it out of the date or fell into your date bowl. And then we add to that 54 grams of coconut oil. And my coconut oil has been liquefied ahead of time. So now I'm at 228. Why I teach by gram? Because it's precise, because your cake for sure will taste very similar to the one that I'm teaching you right now. There is no guessing. That's why I teach this way. And you can tweak it to the taste of your family that your family likes. So if you want it sweeter, you can increase the sweetness. And then we put it in the blender. Let's move my little scale again. And now this time, I will bring my blender. There we go. So you'll see what's happening. I'm putting my little jar in. There's a space between touching the top, so I'm using this to fill in the space. So for sure, it's keeping my lid in place. And then we blend. Et voila. It's about a minute with my blender. My blender is a Blendtec, so it goes for about a minute. And then it's to make sure that the dates are really, creamy and there's no date chunks. So that's why I do it for that long. If your blender is not as strong, what you do is, let me see, I have water. Yeah, there is water in that recipe. So you put the water and put the dates in the water and leave it to soak for maybe 2 hours before you start your recipe. So that will help, okay? Now, the next ingredient that we add is your cake can be all with macadamia nuts, the filling, or it can be all with cashews, or it can be a mixture of both. And that's what I'll do today. So I need 140 grams. So I will put, and also in your blender, you always do the ingredients that are the easier to blend first, and you finish with the hardest one. Why? Because the blender is going to mix really well those ingredients, keep creating more moisture to grab the harder one after. Okay. So, but not the powder. If you have, a powder of some sort, wait for that last, because that it steals the moisture. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll do 100 of the cashew, 100 of cashews, and then I will put 40 grams of the macadamia nuts. As long as you use a white nut. That's very important that you use a nut that is white, not the pine nut though, because that's totally a different taste. So macadamia or cashews. And then again, we blend. I'm kind of awkward putting, there you go. When it's not the usual, going in. All right, and again, let me move this a little bit so you can see what's going on. Okay, so you simply pour the mixture here in your cake form on top of your crust. Simply like that. You see, whoopsies, you see how my blender is clean, blender jar is clean? That spatula is awesome. It's made by Rubbermaid. It's called a spoon-tula. And it has a concave shape. And that's why it helps really to spoon out the mixture. Now I use a chopstick, and I use the thicker end of the chopstick. And I simply move my filling, the cake filling, that way. So I will not make the side of the spring form covered in that cream, because there is a layer that goes on top. So I want a really clear definition. There we are. And there you are. That's what the first layer is. That goes in your freezer for about an hour, and then you can do the top layer. Now I will show you how to add the topping on top of the cake. Very, very simple. So it's been in the freezer for about, it could be an hour. As long as when you touch it, it's hard, so that the topping won't mix with the bottom. So let's put this aside. We take our scale, of course, always, always. And then I use a blender jar, a small one. Again, if you don't have a small one, you have to double up for sure. And we add 130 grams of blueberries, fresh or frozen, but if frozen, you have to thaw them first, because those blueberries have to become very, like the coulis is going to be very creamy, which won't happen if they're frozen. So it has to be very creamy. So thawed or fresh blueberries, and we add 60 grams of dates to it. And it's not that many, as you can see. I have one, well, it depends on the size of your dates, of course. I have 1.5 dates. And then my lid, there we go. Oh, where is my, oh. There is my lid. I have another one, but I forgot that my little blender was there. Okay, and we'll do the same thing. We'll just move this one over so you can see better what's happening in the place. There we go, and we start. Oh yeah, absolutely beautiful and creamy. No bits of dates, just gorgeous. That's exactly what we need. And now what we simply do, I'll take also what's in the lid here. Won't lose any of that yumminess. There we go, into my jar. And then you put it on top, in the center. Do it in the center. Grab everything you can from your blender. This one is easy, of course, because it's a Blendtec. And the Blendtec, they only have one knife that goes across instead of 4 little prongs, so it's easier to clean. Then what you do again, chopstick the thicker end, and then you simply help the topping to move around with the chopstick like this. Same idea as we're not going up the side here, which makes a cleaner cake in the end. And there you are. As simple as that. So now, this will go in the freezer again, this time for 2-3 hours for sure, so that the coulis on top solidifies. And then it'll be easier to take the cake out of the mold. So see you in a bit. So now we are at the last step to take the cake out of the mold. So we undo the claps here, you just let it go. Give the cake a little time to thaw, like maybe 10 minutes, because you don't want to break the rivet here, okay? So like this, and then I am going to stretch it. There we go. It came out. And remember, I was telling you about putting it on a parchment paper. You see how easy it is to take it off the form. Then we put it on the plate here, a plate of your choice, to display it. Here we go. And there. And the next step is we are going to cut the strawberries that will decorate the top. So you take a strawberry, a good size one, it works best, a little knife like this. I will score the strawberry, but not all the way to the top. And then, just like this, and then you can fan the strawberry, you see? So let's bring this over again here. And I find that that's all it needs. It really makes the cake, it's complete. You can add more, of course, if you like, but I find that it's complete that way. What do you think? Does it look gorgeous and delicious? It certainly is. And remember, when you eat nutritious, delicious food like this, the answer then for your health is on your plate and for our planet at the same time. Bon appétit!